Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Today we're taking a look at Scandinavian surnames.
Oh, cool.
We found this really interesting article called Nordic Etymology
Okay.
from a website called transam.org.
Interesting.
Really fascinating stuff. Apparently, these names can tell us a lot about someone's family history, like their ancestry or even their occupation, even the landscape they came from. I'm really interested to see what we can find.
Yeah, me too.
So what's the first thing that stood out to you when you read through the article?
Well, one thing that really struck me was how recent Scandinavian surnames actually are.
Oh,
It wasn't until 1901 that Sweden passed a law requiring people to have heritable surnames.
wow, that's surprising. So before that,
Yeah.
what did people use?
Well, just imagine your last name changing based on your father's name.
Whoa!
Or even the place you lived.
Really?
Yeah. Before the 1901 law, Scandinavians mainly used two types of surnames. Patronymic names, which are those familiar son or dottir endings, and names that reflected a family's job or something prominent in nature.
That's so interesting. It's like your name was a mini biography.
Exactly. And the article lists some common surname elements from nature.
Oh, like what?
Well, for instance, you have berg, meaning rock, boulder, cliff, or mountain.
Okay.
Bjork, meaning birch.
Uh-huh.
Borg, meaning castle, dome-shaped hill, or fortified city.
Wow.
Dal, or dal, meaning valley.
Interesting.
Fors, meaning waterfall.
Okay.
And lund, meaning grove.
So if someone's name was like Björklund, could we guess their ancestors lived near a birch grove?
You got it. These names weren't just random. They
Yeah.
were deeply connected to the environment and history of the people who had them.
It really makes you think about how much our own names can tell us about our family history and even our cultural background.
Yeah,
I mean, we often take our names for granted, but they really do hold so much meaning.
absolutely. And the article actually brings up this connection between Scandinavian surnames and the English language.
Really?
And that's where things get even more interesting. It turns out a lot of the English words we use today come from Old Norse.
Wait, seriously? Like, how many words are we talking about here?
Quite a few, actually.
Oh, wow.
The article has this whole list. Anger, awe, awkward, berserk, die, dregs, fellow, give, gun, haggle, husband, knife, law, likely, loft, low, maelstrom, mistake, odd, root, rugged, saga, same, scare, score, skull, sky, slaughter, take, there, they, thrive, trust, ugly, want, weak, window, and wrong.
Wow, that's a lot of words. And some of them are pretty intense, like berserk, slaughter, skull.
Yeah.
It's like looking into the Viking world right there in our everyday vocabulary.
It really is. And the article makes a really fascinating point.
Yeah.
It says that Old Norse has this raw, visceral quality to it and compares it to certain dog breeds, arguing that it's a pure expression of the Western warrior tradition.
Like how a husky is an archetypal sled dog.
Ex-
I see what you mean. There's a definite power and intensity to those words that you can't really ignore. It's like they carry the weight of history with them.
Precisely. And if we take a closer look at these words derived from Old Norse,
Right.
we can see how they've actually shaped the English language in subtle but pretty significant ways.
Okay, so we've covered Scandinavian surnames, their connection to nature and history, and we've seen how Old Norse has influenced the English language. What else does this article have in store for us?
Well, it goes on to explore some specific ways Old Norse words have integrated into English.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we can really begin to appreciate just how complex linguistic evolution is.
Sounds fascinating. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, so picking up where we left off, it's amazing to see how these Old Norse words weren't just absorbed into English,
Right.
but actually brought their own unique flavor.
I'm curious about that.
Okay.
What kind of flavor are we talking about here?
Well, think about the word berserk. It comes from Old Norse berserker, which referred to those legendary warriors who fought with just a wild,
Yeah.
almost frenzied energy. And that sense of untamed power
Right.
is still there in the word berserk today.
So it's not just a simple translation then. It's
Right.
like the word itself carries the essence of that original meaning.
Exactly. And this isn't just for dramatic words like berserk. Even words that seem mundane like give, husband, and window have roots in Old Norse.
Mm,
It really shows how much influence this ancient language had on everyday English.
that's incredible. It's like there's a hidden history lesson in every sentence we speak.
It really is. And what's even more interesting is how these borrowed words often change their meanings a bit over time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for example, the Old Norse anger originally meant grief or sorrow.
Wow.
It wasn't until later that it took on that more aggressive meaning we associate with it today.
That's a really interesting example. It really makes you wonder about how language changes and adapts over time to different cultural contexts, too.
Exactly. And, this process of language evolution is still happening.
Yeah.
New words are always being created, and old words are taking on new meanings.
Right.
It's a constant state of change and adaptation.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate just how dynamic language really is.
Yeah.
It's not just a static set of rules. It's a living, breathing thing that changes along with culture and thought.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of thought,
Yeah.
the word awe is another really fascinating example.
Okay.
In Old Norse, it conveyed a sense of deep respect or even fear.
Oh, wow.
But in modern English, it often leans more towards wonder and amazement.
So it's like the emotional weight of the word has changed over time.
Exactly. And I think that shift says a lot about how our relationship with the world has changed. We might not live in a world of Vikings and mythical creatures anymore.
Right.
But we still experience awe when we look at the beauty and complexity of nature.
Yeah.
The vastness of the universe, the power of human creativity.
This is seriously blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd find so much depth and history in a simple list of words.
And that's just scratching the surface of what this article has to offer.
Right.
It really shows the connection between language, history, and culture.
So what's like the one big takeaway you'd want our listener to walk away with from all this?
I think it's the understanding that language is more than just a tool for communication.
Yeah.
It's a window into the past, a reflection of our values,
Right.
and a powerful force that shapes how we see the world.
I love that. It's like each word carries a story, and by understanding those stories, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe this will even inspire some of you to go on your own linguistic adventures.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think that something as simple as a word can hold so much history and meaning. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on language today.
It's really fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
How language connects us to the past and shapes how we understand the present.
Absolutely. And speaking of connections to the past,
Yeah.
we talked earlier about how Scandinavian surnames can give us clues about a person's ancestry and their connection to the land. So if you could choose a Scandinavian surname for yourself
Okay.
based on its meaning or sound, what would it be?
That's a tough one, but I think I'd go with Lund.
Lund.
Yeah, which means grove in Swedish.
Okay.
It just evokes this sense of tranquility and connection to nature,
Right.
which I really like.
Lund. It does have a beautiful sound to it.
Yeah.
And a lovely meaning.
Yeah.
I could definitely see why you choose that one. So what about you, listener? If you could choose a Scandinavian surname, what would it be and why?
Yeah.
Take a moment to think about all the meanings we've talked about today,
Right.
or simply go with what sounds the most appealing to you. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It has.
We've uncovered all these hidden meanings behind Scandinavian surnames,
Yeah.
explored the Viking roots of English, and even thought about our own linguistic identities.
It's been amazing.
It has. It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
The pleasure's all mine.
And a huge thank you to our expert for taking us on this journey through this amazing linguistic landscape.
You're very welcome.
And all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Nordic etymology.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope you've enjoyed it and that you've come away with a new appreciation for the power and beauty of language.
Absolutely.
Until next time.